the Prime Minister's certainly called for de-escalation and sent a number of military assets to the region in case they're needed to protect UK nationals. The question is whether the UK will join America, as it's done in the past, in blocking Iranian missile attacks on Israel. And that remains to be seen. We have the capability to do it. And it'll be interesting to see whether we do it this time or whether we refuse the use. If the Israelis have made the case on Iranian nuclear capability successfully to the Brits, then they might join the United States in taking those kinds of actions. But there's no evidence that Iran has a nuclear weapon, and its breakout time to create a nuclear weapon is months or even a year. So the justification for the attack by Israel is not real. The justification is all about Israeli domestic politics. Well, I think Netanyahu's problem was that he was being trapped. There was a peace conference coming up next week. Trump was pushing for an Iranian nuclear deal. His opposition was the opposition in Israel was growing. His coalition was weakened. So he had a limited amount of time to act, and he's been desperate to take this action against Iran for a long time. And I think he was pushed into a corner. Everyone knew the attack was coming. The surprise was that it came before the resumption of talks on Sunday, which were then cancelled on the Iranian nuclear weapon. So I think you need to look inside Israeli politics to see why this attack has taken place now. And I think we will see it continue for days or weeks because it is the way in which the Netanyahu government can survive. The last round of the nuclear talks, Trump's nuclear talks, well, they had to be cancelled when Israel launched the attacks. The Iranians couldn't go into talks while they were being 100 sites within Iran had been hit in that first wave of attacks. Subsequent waves have continued to degrade Iranian capability. The Iranian government couldn't, in all honesty, go on with those talks. How would Trump have imposed that settlement on the Israelis, even if the talks had continued in the midst of full-scale war between Iran and Israel? So I think that it was inevitable once the attack took place that the talks would be cancelled. Indeed, that's why the attacks took place, in order to make sure that a separate Trump deal did not take place. I don't think Israel will go into negotiations anytime soon. I think they have to continue this military operation. So long as they continue the military operation, Israel is united behind the government. As soon as the attack started, the opposition came out in support. Iran is seen as this existential threat to Israel. It's the one thing that unifies the bulk of Israeli politicians and the public is the threat of Iran. So Netanyahu needs this war in order to prolong his own government while he completes his operation, which is to divide Gaza between the north and the south and depopulate it and divide the West Bank so that there is no possibility of a viable Palestinian state. That's his objective. The expansion to Greater Israel and the prevention of the creation of a viable Palestinian state. I think they support the objective of destroying Iranian nuclear capability. And there was significant support for the war on Hamas in Gaza, but that was slipping away. And I think that's why we've seen this massive escalation now. Opposition to the war in Israel was growing. It was clear that Netanyahu had no real interest in getting the hostages released. So he had a limited window to complete his strategic objectives while maintaining support of the Israeli population through an attack on Iran is a very hard, real political move by Netanyahu. It's temporary. It brings the country together, I think, temporarily. I think in the long run, his political position is still incredibly vulnerable. But while this escalated war goes on, his political position is strengthened with the Israeli people. I think there won't be a regime change in Iran. I don't think that could be accomplished without a ground operation. And I don't think Israel, fighting on so many different fronts at this time, has the capability to launch a ground operation. And I don't see Trump being the kind of president who would want to take part in a ground operation. He wants things done more easily than that. He doesn't like the idea of committing the US to a war in the Middle East. But I think Iran has already been significantly weakened by this war. The Israeli campaign against Hezbollah considerably weakened it. Hamas has been broken. So Iran's position in the region has been significantly weakened, and the Iranian state has been significantly weakened. Unless, however, there's an internal uprising in Iran, I don't see regime change being the end of this. I think Israel will stop if and when America pull the plug and really demand that Israel stop the military operations. And I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon.